I was sitting in the family room, watching television, letting the low hum fill the quiet. Suddenly, my son-in-law strode in and snapped the screen off without a word. "Go to your room, old woman," he barked. "This living room belongs to me now." My daughter's eyes dropped straight to the floor. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I simply rose, slipped my keys into my palm, and walked out without a single word. The next morning, a sharply dressed man appeared at the front door and rang the bell. But before we reach that moment, let me step out of the story for a moment. Welcome to my channel. Here, I share powerful life stories every single day. If you enjoy emotional, meaningful stories, please take a second to subscribe and like this video. It truly helps the channel grow. Now, let's return to the story. And trust me, you'll want to hear this until the very end. Now, back to the story. That evening, the click of the remote shattered the calm like a gunshot. I had been resting in my moss green armchair, the one I bought with my very first Social Security check after my husband passed away 15 years ago. A cup of fresh coffee sat steaming on the side table. The kitchen still carried the sweet scent of peach cobbler. The news murmured softly on the television. This hour was mine, the only time my joints stopped aching, when no one needed anything from me, when I could simply exist. Then the front door slammed open as if anger itself had kicked it in. I didn't turn my head. I already knew. Victor Hale walked in as though the house had his name engraved on every wall. Behind him came my daughter, Clara, weighed down with shopping bags. Her shoulders were rounded, her eyes glued to the floor, like someone apologizing just for breathing. I stayed where I was. Victor Hale planted himself directly in front of the television, blocking my view. He made that familiar sound of disgust, the one he always used when he saw me resting. He grabbed the remote and pressed the power button. The screen went black. "Room. Now," he snapped. "I'm putting the game on. This family room is mine." The silence thickened, heavy and sour. I could hear his breathing, short, proud, as if his shouting had stamped ownership into the air. Slowly, I turned my head toward Clara. She stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, fingers clenched white around the shopping bags. Our eyes met. I waited. Just one sentence. "Don't speak to my mother like that. This is her house." Instead, Clara looked away. She adjusted one of the bags, pretending something inside had shifted. That small movement cut deeper than any insult ever could. His voice, her silence. And in that space between them, something inside me hardened. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was clear. 35 years working at the county records office had taught me one truth. Words fade. Paper does not. I stood up. My knees cracked in the quiet room, sharp and dry, like the stamp of an official seal. Victor Hale had already collapsed onto my couch, popping open his soda, loosening his shirt. In his world, I had become wallpaper. I walked past him and into my bedroom. Not to hide, not to cry. I opened the bottom drawer of my dresser and pulled out a stiff leather pouch I kept for bank papers. From beneath old scarves, I retrieved a ring of keys and a blue folder held tight with an elastic band. My fingers moved through the pages. A bill of sale. A current deed. Owner, Margaret L. Holloway. The edges were yellowed. The authority was not. In the mirror, I saw my short silver hair, my glasses hanging from a chain, my soft blouse and pressed slacks. I looked like a harmless old woman who baked desserts and asked about everyone's day. That had always been my shield. As long as grandmother kept feeding the wolves, they felt like kings. The moment the pot went cold, their crowns melted. I returned to the family room. The sports channel blared. Clara clinked dishes in the kitchen, busy hands instead of a backbone. I headed for the front door. My heels tapped slowly against the hardwood. Victor Hale glanced over, smirked, and lifted his soda, can in mock salute. "Going somewhere, Maggie," he laughed. "Try not to wander off. At your age, you might forget the way back." I didn't answer. I unlocked the deadbolt. For one breath, I took in the house, the framed riverfront print, The rug I vacuumed every Saturday, my son-in-law sprawled on my couch, my daughter's shadow moving quietly in the kitchen. My fingers closed around the keys in my pocket.
Cold. Solid. Real.
I stepped outside and pulled the door shut. Not loudly, firmly, like placing a final period at the end of a long sentence. The night air was sharp and clean. I locked the front gate from the outside and walked to the avenue. A taxi rolled to the curb. "Where to?" the driver asked. "The Grand Hyatt downtown." As the city lights slid past the windows, I pulled out my phone. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear, from control. I scrolled to a name I hadn't called in years, but never forgot. Thomas R. Whitmore, property attorney. He answered on the second ring. "Margaret? It's almost 9. Is everything all right?" I looked out at the glowing streets. "I just woke up," I said calmly. "And I need your help. I want to be in court first thing tomorrow." "That sounds serious. What's going on?" "My mental health," I replied. "And my property." "I'm listening. I want to evict 2 tenants." There was a pause. "But you live with your daughter and her husband." "Exactly." There was a brief silence on the line. He knew me. He'd seen my name for decades at the bottom of rejected titles and corrected deeds. Where others wrote maybe, I had always written absolutely not. "What happened?" he finally asked. He looked at me and said, "Old woman, this living room belongs to me now." My voice didn't shake. "And my daughter said nothing. I left. And I will not go back until they are gone." Another pause. "That is emotional abuse at the very least," he said. "But you didn't call me for sympathy. You called me for action." "Yes," I replied. "The house is mine. They've lived there 4 years. No lease. No rent. Every bill paid by me. I want a formal notice to vacate. I am ending their free use of my property and demanding possession. You'll need personal service." "Then arrange it." "I'll send my junior associate first thing in the morning," he said. "Name's Roman. Young, precise, professional. Wears a suit like armor. He delivers facts without trembling." "Good. We usually allow 30 days. "That's acceptable. But I want the wording to be strong. They get 24 hours to understand what this really means. And when they leave, they'll be billed for back rent and a holdover penalty." There was a quiet breath on the other end. "You are very determined," he said. "I am wounded," I answered. "And a wounded woman who knows the law is not harmless." "Then we prepare the papers. Be in my office by 8. We'll sign before court, and I'll send Roman straight to your house." The taxi rolled to a stop in front of the hotel. The doorman opened my door with more respect than my son-in-law had shown me in a decade. "May I help you with your luggage, ma'am?" "I only have my purse," I said softly. "And the dignity I just took back." The room smelled of lavender and clean linen. Everything was in its place. A wide television faced the bed. I turned it on, set the volume exactly where I liked it. I ordered soup and a glass of red wine. I ate slowly. My thoughts drifted to the house, but for the first time, they were only thoughts, not duties. I knew their mornings by memory. Victor slept late and woke up sour. Always exhausted, always angry. My daughter, Clara, rushed around smoothing his moods, making the world gentle for him. I picture my front door, the intercom, a firm finger pressing the button. This wasn't a visit. It was the first strike of a bell. The law had begun to speak. I slept deeply, the kind of sleep that comes when someone finally takes back the wheel. I woke up with the sunrise, showered, put on the same clothes, but I stood differently inside them. At the law office, papers were already waiting. Dates, parcel numbers, formal language. Every movement of my pen felt heavy, final. Each signature sounded like a door closing. "He's on his way," my attorney said, nodding toward a tall young man lifting a leather briefcase. 20 minutes and he'll be at your gate." Perfect. I set my purse down and took a seat in the reception area. I'll wait. Panic always remembers where its mother lives. The machine coffee smelled like sugar and heat. The clock on the wall whispered its thin little rhythm. Somewhere across town, in my family room, a very different kind of music was beginning. For the first time in years, I wasn't moving between a stove and someone else's moods. I was simply waiting. 9:30. My phone vibrated against my knee. The screen lit up. Clara. I let it ring.
Once. Twice.
3 times. Then I answered. Mama, Mama, please? Her voice cracked into a cry. There's a man here. A lawyer. He handed us papers. Victor is screaming. What is this? Where are you? I held the phone slightly away from my ear as his shouting bled through the speaker. Roman is the attorney's associate, I said evenly. Tell your husband to lower his voice. Take notice. Read it out loud. And then tell him, the old woman is unavailable for screaming today. But it says eviction. 30 days. Mama, have you lost your mind? No, Clara, I said. For the first time in years, I am completely sane. Read what it says. Follow the instructions. The fewer raised voices, the better. And I ended the call. The small red button returned silence, as gently as turning off a lamp beside a childhood bed. The office door opened. My attorney looked over his glasses. Your daughter. I nodded. The curtain has gone up on time. The papers were served. We have signatures. We have the attached inventory. Then we wait. I leaned back into the chair. The coffee machine hissed. The clock whispered. And I thought about the 4 years I had folded myself smaller and smaller inside my own home. How I became quiet furniture. How I ate the burnt crust of every pie and offered the warm center to the self-appointed king of the living room. How I wore headphones to watch television so I wouldn't disturb their conference calls. How I paid triple utility bills and called it peace. I opened my purse and pulled out a folded paper, my pension statement. My late husband's careful planning. Modest investments. Reliable income. The numbers stood straight and calm like soldiers. Those numbers meant survival. Those numbers meant freedom. They meant I did not have to beg. Then I unfolded another sheet. Transfers. The down payment on their black crossover. Emergency top-ups when their car payment almost bounced. Temporary help that somehow became permanent. The evidence of how I had built a throne for someone who thought I was the floor beneath it. And somewhere across town, behind my locked gate, the law was now explaining that truth to them. The purpose line on each transfer read the same: family support. Sometimes my hand had trembled while signing, but the name itself had always been straight, clean, final. A lifetime in records leaves its habits in the bones.
My phone shuddered again.
Clara. I turned it face down. Then another vibration. A message from Victor. Come home. Let's talk. Another followed from Clara. Please, Mom.
Please. No.
I brushed the notifications away like crumbs from a polished table. My attorney stepped into the hall. Tea, he offered. I want something stronger than tea, I replied. I need to shut off the utilities. He lifted a brow. Which ones? Everything in my name. The fiber internet. The cable, including the sports package. The landline. And the secondary debit card Clara uses. Cancel them?
No.
Suspend. I'll restore them when the house is mine alone again. A thin, knowing smile touched his mouth. That will be noticed. Yesterday was painful, I said. Today will simply be felt. They are not the same. I pulled a small notebook from my purse and opened it to a clean page. The plan formed neatly. Step 1, legal. Notice served. Deadline set. Consequences stated. Step 2, financial. Close the taps. Let the king of the living room discover what his kingdom costs. Step 3, silence. No drama. No defense. Only facts. The phone buzzed again. I glanced. Clara's messages were stacking up in frantic lines. He's furious. People saw. We're humiliated. Where are you?
Please talk to me.
I set the phone down. Today, my silence was my answer. Is there a decent clothing store nearby? I asked, sliding the notebook back into my purse. The Galleria Mall is 2 blocks east, my attorney replied.
Why?
I'm dressed like a grandmother, I said, meeting his eyes. And today I'm setting boundaries. I need a uniform. He studied me. You are dangerous when you're this calm. I'm not dangerous, I said, standing. I'm returning. Outside, the air was bright and dry. I walked quickly, without once turning back. In the shop windows, my reflection passed, straighter, firmer, steadier. My thoughts were organized now. What to do, who to call, what not to explain. No pleading, no revenge, only order. At the mall entrance, I paused, touched the strap of my purse, and released a long breath. First the uniform, then the taps. Inside, light spilled from every direction. Soft music drifted from the ceiling. Clean floors. Open space. In the classic wear section, a consultant approached. Her badge read, Maya. Her eyes were alert, not sugary. I need a uniform, I said.
Calm. Precise.
Today I'm drawing lines. Maya nodded once and disappeared between the racks. She returned carrying navy tailor trousers, a crisp white blouse, and a soft beige blazer. In the fitting room, the fabric settled like it had been waiting. The trousers lengthened my stance. The blouse felt cool and decisive. The blazer finished the sentence. I slipped on leather pumps with a low but confident heel.
Tap. Tap.
The sound on the tile was steady, measured. I folded my old clothes into a bag. Please put these in the charity bin, I told her. Let them be useful again. I sat on a small ottoman near the mirrors, took out my notebook and my phone. First call. Good afternoon. I am the account holder. I need a temporary suspension of services at this address. Internet, cable television, sports package, landline. The operator read the formal notice. Disconnection within 2 hours. Monthly fee adjusted. Second call. I am the primary holder on this account. I need the supplementary card under Clara Whitman frozen immediately. Security reasons. Reduce all digital limits and route alerts only to my number. A pause. Typing.
Done.
The changes are active. I ended the call. A faint hollow feeling moved through my stomach. Not hunger, but the ebbing of adrenaline. On the second floor, in a quiet restaurant, I ordered mushroom risotto and a glass of dry white wine. I placed my phone face down beside my plate.
Spoon.
Fork.
Breath.
For the first time in years, I was not eating quickly. Not standing. Not listening for someone's temper. 10 minutes later, a brief vibration brushed my palm. A bank alert. Transaction declined. $85. Butcher shop.
Prime ribeye.
I smiled. It wasn't kind. It wasn't cruel. It was clean. Another message followed immediately. The cards aren't working.
Call the bank.
We're at the counter. Victor's number. I dialed. It's not an error, I said calmly when he answered. It's freezing. The credit and the trust expired yesterday, along with your game time. I placed the phone face down and continued eating slowly, tasting each grain. When I finished, I paid with my own card. The machine approved it instantly. I walked out as easily as stepping through the door of a house that truly belongs to you. At the exit, I bought a bottle of water, hailed a cab, and returned to the Grand Hyatt. The lobby was cool, carrying the scent of polish and linen. The carpet yielded gently under my steps. In my room, I slipped off my new shoes and set my keys on the nightstand. They chimed softly, and something inside me chimed back. I turned on a soft music channel and slept for an hour. My body accepted the rest without argument. When I woke, it was to the clear, deliberate ring of the hotel landline. That sound almost never means nothing. Good afternoon, this is reception, a polite voice said. Your daughter is in the lobby. She's asking to come up, or rather, she's asking if you'll come down. She says it's urgent. I glanced at the clock. A perfect hour for truth. Not too early for tempers. Not too late for hysteria. I'll be right down, I replied. I splashed water on my face, smoothed the lapel of my beige blazer, and adjusted the chain of my glasses. The woman in the mirror was the same one, but she was standing straighter. I took my keys from my purse. Today, their sound was different. Lighter, clearer, like bells on a door that had finally been opened. I inhaled once, pressed the elevator button, and stepped inside. Clara was not alone in my thoughts, but she was alone in the lobby. The elevator doors slid apart. She paced between two couches, wringing her hands. Her blouse was creased, her bun half fallen, dark shadows resting beneath her eyes. When she saw me, something in her halted, as if she'd walked into an invisible wall. "Mama." She took 2 steps toward me and stopped. "What is all this?" she burst out. "The internet is gone. The cable's dead. My card was declined. Victor Hale is losing his mind. Where are you?"
Come home.
"Enough of this drama." "Sit," I said, pointing to an armchair. "We're in a public place. We'll speak calmly." She obeyed, perching on the edge of the seat, fingers tangled together. "Mom," she said softly, switching to that soothing voice she used when she wanted something. "Let's talk like family. Yesterday was just a bad day. He already texted you an apology. Come back. I'll make tea. We'll work it out." "I'm not offended, Clara," I said quietly. "I have made a decision. The house is mine. You have lived there 4 years without a lease. You have 30 days to move out. As of today, there are no utilities in my name." Her face tightened. "This isn't revenge," I continued. "This is the structure." "But he has to work," she protested. "He has meetings, deadlines. You're destroying his reputation. He can work from a co-working office, a cafe, or his mother's house," I answered. "The internet, the television, the landline, and the extra bank card were paid for by me. Not anymore. You are not necessities in my budget. You were expenses. And I've closed the account." Her lips pressed together. "You're humiliating us," she whispered. "Everyone saw today. At the store. The card didn't work." "Humiliation," I replied evenly, "is being ordered out of my own living room. Humiliation is eating burnt crust while someone else claims the center. Today, no one is humiliating anyone. Today, everyone pays their own bill." She tried to rally herself. "We were saving," she said quickly. "We had money." Victor Hale said, "Where is it?" I asked. She faltered. 4 years of rent-free living, utilities paid, groceries covered. That should be close to $100,000. "Where is it, Clara?" Her eyes slid away. Her shoulders sagged. "He said it was invested," she murmured. "Business. He said he'd show me." "He will," I said, nodding once. "Tomorrow, 10 o'clock, at Mr. Whitmore's office. You're both invited. We'll look at this business together." Her head snapped up. "You called a lawyer against your own family?" "I called the rules," I replied. "Family is respect. Not go to your room, old woman. Tomorrow is about rules." Her breath shook. "If we leave," she said, voice breaking, "he says he'll divorce me. He says if he doesn't have your house, he doesn't want the marriage." The words landed and cleared the air. I leaned forward and placed my hands over hers. "If your marriage is held together by my property and my money," I said gently, "then that is not a family, Clara. That is captivity, and you are the one being held." She yanked her hands back as if stung. "You've become cruel," she said bitterly. "Old and cruel." "I've grown," I answered calmly. "At 68. You are 40. You still have time. Use it." We sat in silence. Somewhere nearby, china clinked. Footsteps crossed marble. Life went on. "Just turn the internet back on," she tried again weakly. "He won't cope." "I won't cope." "No internet," I said. "But your voice works. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Today, silence." She stood, adjusted her purse strap, searched my face for the softness she used to lean on. It wasn't there. "I'll be there," she said finally, backing away. 10 sharp, I replied. She turned and walked quickly toward the exit. I watched until the doors closed behind her. Only then did the tightness leave my chest, not weakness, but breath returning to its natural place. I took the stairs back up. I wanted the movement. In my room, I switched on the desk lamp and, opened my laptop. A new email glowed on the screen. From Thomas R. Whitmore, subject line: Margaret. The email was short.
Precise.
Notice served. Your son-in-law Victor's corporate legal department has confirmed receipt. He has already begun sending internal messages attempting to pressure you. A director was copied. Reprimand is likely. Negotiations tomorrow at 10 a.m. sharp. Both will attend. T. R. Whitmore. I closed the laptop. Haste is fear's closest relative. The former king of the living room was already panicking, and panic always leaves fingerprints. I opened my phone, went into settings, and disabled the family location app, the one Victor had installed for my safety years ago. Location access denied. Good. My dot on the map belonged to me again. I emptied my purse onto the nightstand. The keys spilled out, chiming lightly, not noise, but clarity, like the sound of a new lock. Outside, late sunlight stretched across the avenue. The air conditioner breathed steadily. I sat on the edge of the bed and let myself feel it. Not triumph. No noise. Order. Tomorrow at 10, a conference room door would open. 3 forces would walk in.
A man.
My daughter.
And the law.
The conference room was cool, the air humming softly. I asked for the head of the table. To my right sat Thomas Whitmore, neat as a blueprint. His folders aligned. His pen straight to the edge. Before me lay my driver's license.
The deed.
The formal termination notice. My protection today was simple. A beige blazer. A steady gaze. And paper. The door clicked. A paralegal murmured, "They're here." Victor entered first. His usual swagger had collapsed. His shirt was wrinkled. His tie hung loose like a forgotten rope. Dark shadows bruised his eyes. Clara followed, clutching her purse to her chest, her stare fixed on the carpet. "Please take your seats," Whitmore said, his voice level final. "I'm not here for manners," Victor snapped, dropping into a chair. "Enough theater. We've lived there 4 years. We have rights." I let the silence stretch long enough for his anger to echo. "Rights," I said calmly, "are exactly why we're here. The house is my sole property. You occupied it by permission. That permission has ended. The notice is in front of you. You have 30 days. "There's adverse possession," he shot back. "We lived there openly, like owners. Haven't you ever read the law?" A small smile touched my mouth. I worked with it for 35 years. Adverse possession applies when the owner is absent, unpaid, and silent. I lived there. I paid for everything. And I object. I met his eyes. "You are not owners. You are loud guests." His jaw tightened. He turned to Whitmore, searching. "The notice is lawful," the attorney said evenly. "Service is confirmed. At expiration, we will file for eviction and recovery of fair market rent from the date of notice." "This is harassment," Victor snapped. "She cut off services. She froze funds. Emotional distress. I'll sue. Internet and cable are not life-sustaining utilities," Whitmore replied without blinking. "You're welcome to open your own accounts." Victor swung toward Clara.
Tell her.
"She's tearing this family apart." Clara's mouth opened. No sound came. I slid a folder toward her. "Let paper speak," I said quietly. Then I turned back to him. "For 4 years, you claimed you were saving for a condominium. By conservative numbers, that should be close to $100,000. Where is it?" His lips twitched. "Investments. Futures. Leverage. You wouldn't understand. I prefer numbers." I removed several sheets from an envelope and placed them on the table. 3 default notices. A brokerage statement. And 1 bold line. Margin call. Account below 0. Victor reached for the papers. Whitmore's hand landed first. Firm. "Leave them. Let your wife read." Clara took the documents. Her fingers trembled. Her eyes moved across the pages, once, twice, then stopped. I watched comprehension strike. Her shoulders sagged. Her lips parted. A single heavy tear slipped down. "0, she whispered. "Less than 0. "Yes," I said gently, but without softness. "There were no savings. There were wagers, steak dinners, imported beer, and every charge on my card. I was going to recover it, Victor burst out. The market is shifting. I just needed one more injection. And that's why you needed my living room? I asked. To lose more comfortably? And send me to my bedroom while you do it. His fists clenched, rage flickered, and beneath it, fear. I'm Victor, your son-in-law, he said tightly. Family helps. Family respects, I answered. You did not. So I will not. I stood. The room adjusted itself around that movement. Terms, I said, each word clean. 30 days to vacate. Services remain disconnected. Financial access remains closed. When I return to retrieve my winter clothes, any raised voice will be recorded and reported. A police report for threats will be filed. I tilted my head slightly. Add that to your corporate reprimand. Let's see how recruiters receive it. Victor sank back as if the air had left him. Clara covered her face, and in the quiet that followed, the law remained seated at my side. The hum of the air conditioner grew loud in the quiet room. One more thing, I said, turning to my daughter. This part is yours. She slowly lowered her hands from her face. These 30 days are not just about moving, I continued. They're about choosing. You can keep sinking beside a man who lied and dragged you under, or you can start swimming up. I held her eyes. I am your mother, but I am not a bank, and I am not a free cafeteria. For the first time in years, Clara looked directly at me. But if I have nowhere to go, she whispered, her voice scraped thin. You will make it somewhere, I answered. You work. You rent a studio. You sell the crossover. You open accounts in your own name. I have already paid for my lessons. You will pay for yours. I slid the papers back into the folder. Thomas Whitmore rose. This meeting is concluded. All further contact will go through my associate in writing. I walked around the table. As I passed Victor, I paused for half a breath. You can press the remote of your own life as much as you want, I said quietly. But it doesn't control my house anymore. Out in the hallway, the light felt warmer, the air cleaner. As I walked toward the elevator, I heard the scrape of a chair behind the closed door. Clara's broken whisper. Victor's sharp curse. The elevator chimed. The doors slid shut. Inside the car, my phone vibrated. Clara. I didn't answer immediately. I took 3 slow breaths. Then I accepted. Mama, she said. Her voice sounded stripped, like after fever. I didn't get in his car. Where are you? In the parking lot. He's still there, hitting the steering wheel, yelling. I walked away. He told me to get in, but I couldn't. Good, I said. Walk.
Breathe.
Don't hurry back to a place where screams are waiting. She was quiet. I could hear traffic, distant and wide. He says you broke the family. Unplugged internet doesn't break families, I said. Lies do. Screaming does. Another pause. Thank you, Mama, she whispered. It hurts, but I can see. Seeing is the first step, I said. Tomorrow at 10, at Whitmore's office. Can you come? Yes. We breathed into the line for 1 second longer. Then I ended the call. The streets smelled of sunburned asphalt. I stepped outside, lifted my face to the light, and hailed a cab. Where to? The driver asked.
To a good restaurant, I replied.
I'm celebrating today. Without speeches. By a window overlooking the riverfront, I ordered clam chowder, a salad, and a glass of dry white wine. I placed my phone face down. The spoon tapped gently against the bowl. Sunlight flickered over the tablecloth. I ate slowly, like someone who had been returned to herself. My phone vibrated once. A bank message. Transfers to a protected account completed. Supplementary cards closed. Beneficiary update processed. Confirmation available online. I smiled, quietly, privately. All loose ends tied. No one else would ever move under my signature again. Another notification followed. From Whitmore. For your records, upon expiration of the 30 days, Roman will be at the property gates at 8 a.m. with handover documents and inventory. If there are threats, Contact us immediately. Regarding Mr. Victor Hale's employment, the reprimand has been formally confirmed. I finished the wine. Like closing a file. Something inside my mind clicked. The final act had been scheduled. I paid and walked along the water. Children rolled past on scooters. Couples argued about trivial things. The wind carried river scent and warm metal. In a store window, I caught my reflection. The same woman, brighter inside. Not a victim, not a heroine, just an adult. That evening, I returned to the Grand Hyatt. I hung up my blazer. The armor could rest. On the nightstand, I spread out my keys, my documents, and my small notebook. On a fresh page, I wrote, Day 30. Morning, Roman.
Deed. Keys.
I am not present. No scenes. Afternoon. Windows open. Warm water. Disinfectant. Mop. Evening. Rug scrubbed. Next. Painter. New color.
Peach.
The phone rang. Mama, Clara said. I'm at Zoe's. On a folding cot. It's fine. He called dozens of times. I blocked him. Good, I replied.
Sleep.
Tomorrow at 10. She hesitated. Mama, were you ever afraid of being alone? I was, I answered truthfully, until I learned it's worse to be somewhere you don't exist. She exhaled, then said goodbye. In the shower, warm water stripped away the invisible film that had lived on my skin for years, the heaviness of my own living room. I put on a simple nightgown, lay atop the comforter, and let soft music fill the space. The room held a clean, honest silence, the kind where you can hear yourself breathe. In the morning, I went down for oatmeal, coffee, and water. A man nearby frowned at the news on the television. In my life, the headlines had already been printed. Before leaving, I stopped by Whitmore's office to sign the final letters, authorizations, and Roman's power of attorney. We spoke briefly, efficiently. As I stood to go, he looked at me and said quietly, Keep going, Margaret. This is the right decision, Whitmore said. I'm not making a decision, I replied. I'm reclaiming what's mine. Outside, the sunlight felt gentle on my face. I went straight to a salon. I wanted my hair to reflect what my spine already knew. The stylist trimmed away the exhausted ends. The gray didn't dull. It shone, clean and bright, like polished silver. In the mirror, the same face looked back at me. But the eyes were different. They weren't waiting. They weren't asking permission. They belonged to a woman with her own keys in her pocket. At a red light, I stopped and smiled. Life felt strangely simple when rules were honored, on the road, and in a home.
My phone chimed.
Roman. Day 30. 8 a.m. sharp. We'll be at the gates. Locks check. Inventory completion. I slid the phone into my purse. The clasp snapped shut. A clean, final sound. That evening, I returned to the Grand Hyatt, turned off the lamp, and cracked the window just enough to let the city breathe into the room. The keys lay on the nightstand. I picked them up. The metal had warmth. Tomorrow, day 0, he would enter my house not with shouting, but with the screech of a moving truck's tires. On the 30th day, I woke without an alarm. The light at the window was even and pale, like a blank page before a signature. I had breakfast, set my phone face down, and drove out of the city to a spa. I would not be home today. Roman called. We're at the gates. The truck has arrived. They're beginning. Proceed according to the inventory, I said. I'm available by phone. Then there was water, steam, herbal tea. I stared at the ceiling and held only one thought. Tonight, I will open the windows. Tonight, I will wash the floor. That is all. At 11, my phone vibrated once. Victor caused noise, Roman said, but he signed. Keys transferred. Inventory complete. Some wall damage from mounts. Furniture marks. Locks intact. At 12:30, they've left. I placed the phone aside. No triumph. No bitterness. Only a fact. An ending. At 2, I stopped at a hardware store.
Gloves. A mop. Rags.
Floor cleaner. On the way, I called the painter Whitmore had recommended. Can you start tomorrow at 9? Family room and hallway. Peach tone. We can, a man answered. One-day job. At the gates, the key turned effortlessly, as if the house itself had released a breath. I stepped inside and stopped. The family room was empty. Pale shadows on the floor where the couch had lived. Ugly holes in the walls. Air thick with what no longer belonged. I flung open every window. A current rushed from kitchen to garden, lifting the curtains, pushing out the last remains of someone else's life. I pulled on the gloves. Shelves first, then baseboards, then the quiet corners where dust hides. I stuffed unread magazines into a black bag. I wiped the framed print of the riverfront and rehung it lower, where my eyes wanted it, not where trends demanded it. The floor met warm water twice. The rug met a stiff brush. With every motion, the house responded. By evening, the kettle began to sing. The silence that filled the rooms wasn't empty. It was golden, like fresh wax on polished wood. Then a short, careful knock. I already knew. Come in, Clara, I said, opening the door. The coffee just finished. She stepped inside slowly, taking in the space. It's beautiful, she whispered. Quiet. Warm. It's Peach, I smiled. Sit. We sat across from each other. 2 mugs. A small plate of pie. She wrapped both hands around her cup, holding the heat. I rented a studio, she said, watching the steam rise. It's tiny. The neighbor upstairs loves loud music. The ceiling is low, but it's mine. I pay for it myself. I listened. I took full-time hours. And I filed for divorce. The pro bono lawyer is handling it. I nodded. Something steady and tender rose in me. Not pride, not relief, but recognition. That's the road, I said. It will ache. Then it will be steady. He says you destroyed the family. She gave a faint smile. And I finally understood. You just stopped feeding the lie. We sat without speaking. Outside, the garden whispered, like clean sheets shaken in the air. Thank you for saying no, she added, resting her hand over mine. When you were filling the holes, I finally heard myself again. Hearing yourself isn't a luxury, I said. It's an order. She drew a slow breath. Mama, may I come sometimes as a guest? No keys. No staying. Just tea. And conversation. That's exactly how it should be, I answered. The door is open for guests. It's closed to tenants. We embraced briefly. 2 adults. On the porch, she adjusted her bag strap and walked toward the gate. She walked straight. She didn't look back, like someone who had chosen her own pace. I returned to the family room. The peach walls glowed softly. My notebook waited on the end table. I opened a clean page and wrote, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Tea with the neighbors. Topic: wills. Separate accounts. Passwords. Bring questions. Bring a notebook. My phone lit up. A message from Zoe. Celeste. Betty is crying. Her son is pushing her to sign the house over to him. Investment, Mom. I'll buy you a better one later. She's scared to say no. Scared he'll get angry. Can we come tomorrow? I typed back. Come at 4. The kettle will be on. Papers ready. I signed the bottom of the page and closed the notebook. The house was clean.
Warm.
And for the first time, that cleanliness had meaning. Tomorrow, the doorbell will ring. Not like an alarm, like a beginning. By Wednesday, 4 p.m., the kettle was already singing. My document folder lay open on the table. Pens aligned. Blank pages. Envelopes. On the folder cover, in large pencil letters, I had written, Wednesday, 4 p.m. The house smelled of peach cobbler and fresh paint. The peach walls glowed softly in the afternoon light. Not decoration. Order. The bell rang, short, uncertain. Zoe arrived first. Then Olga. And between them, almost carried in, was Betty. Her shoulders were curved inward. Her eyes were swollen and red. From the doorway, she said, breath-breaking, My son is rushing me. He wants the house signed over. It's an investment, Mama. I'll buy you a better one later. I'm afraid to refuse. I'm afraid he'll get angry. Sit, I said gently. I poured tea. Let's start with something simple, I said. Giving a house away is permanent. You don't undo it. If you want someone to receive it someday, you write a will. While you're alive, it stays yours. Betty's fingers tightened around her cup. As a last option, there's something called a life estate, I continued. But that requires calm thinking and legal precision. Not pressure. Never pressure. Zoe nodded. And passwords. No one gets them. Not children. Not grandchildren. Not 4 games. Exactly. I slid a page toward Betty. Here's a sentence for you, I said. Memorize it. I am not ready to change ownership of my home. I am willing to think. I am not willing to sign. He will push, I added. Repeat it word for word. If his voice rises, leave the room. Close the door. Papers are signed only when the mind is quiet. Olga gave a small snort. Next you'll be giving her a lawyer. I nodded. Roman. Thomas Whitmore's associate. He doesn't shout. And he reads the small print faster than anyone I know. Also, never sign anything when you're emotional. And never on a weekend, when offices are closed and no one can verify. We began to write. Short lines.
Clear points.
Will instead of gift deed. Separate accounts. Receipts for borrowed money. No shared passwords. Limited power of attorney only. With an expiration date. I showed them where to find ownership records. How to check whose name is actually on a property. And one more thing, I said. Living with Mom for just a year becomes 4, 5, 10 if you never name it for what it is. At first, every no made Betty flinch. By the end, she sat straighter. She asked for more tea. Girls, she said quietly, I feel lighter. I'm going home today not to cry but to talk. We're here every Wednesday, Zoe said. At 4.
Tea.
Questions. Whatever you need. They left differently than they'd come. Not softer. Stronger. I washed the cups. Wiped the table. Opened the windows wide. The garden smelled of wet grass. The house felt weightless. At 8, Clara came. She knocked like a guest. May I? She asked. Come in. The tea's still warm. She slipped off her jacket, walked to the peach wall, and slowly ran her fingers over the paint. It's beautiful, she said.
Warm.
A house should be warm. Everything else is extra. We sat. She cradled the mug in both hands. I went to the lawyers, she said, eyes forward. The divorce is moving. Work is steady. And I don't want supplementary cards for milk anymore. I pay for my own life. I listened. Sometimes, she added. Can I come just as a guest? No keys. No staying. Only tea and conversation. That's exactly right, I answered. The door is open to guests. It's permanently closed to tenants. That isn't cruelty. It's a rule. She thought for a moment, then a faint smile. You know, I miss your no. I spent my whole life learning your yes. Now I'm learning your second word. No isn't an offense, I said. It's a boundary. Yours. Mine. Any adult. We sat in the quiet. The kitchen clock ticked gently. Outside, the wind stirred the rowan tree. She stood and hugged me briefly, firmly. If you hadn't shut off the utilities that day, she said, I never would have hurt myself. Hearing yourself is adulthood, I replied. Go live it. She smiled. I have a meeting tomorrow at 4, she said. Don't embarrass me in front of the neighbors. She left with a steady step, without looking back. In the hallway, my phone lit up with an unknown number. I recognized that kind of call even without a name. My hand hovered. Then calmly I pressed block and set the phone down. There is always more news in life. Always another emergency. Another collapse. Another phone call asking you to carry what does not belong to you. But answering every crisis is not an obligation. I walked slowly through the house. Kitchen, hallway, family room. My documents were stacked neatly on the shelf. The Savannah riverfront print hung exactly where it pleased my eyes. In my study, a clean notebook waited. I sat down. I opened it. On the first line I wrote,
The house.
"The owner's story. Not for Clara. For myself. And for those who are still sitting in their green armchairs, afraid to touch the remote." I wrote about how fear disguises itself as care. How habit slowly drowns out your own voice. How one phrase, "To your room, old woman," can expose an entire system. I wrote about how papers can give your spine back. How unplugging the internet can suddenly switch on your mind. I wrote that you cannot give away yourself.
Not your body.
Not your home. Not out of love. Not out of pity. That living together without respect is not family. It is a hostage situation. And that one timely no can save more than 1,000 obedient yes. I closed the notebook and placed it in the drawer. Then I returned to the family room and rested my palm on the back of the green armchair. I sat. The remote lay on the side table. An ordinary black object. I picked it up. It was no longer a symbol of someone else's authority. Just a thing. I turned on the television. Found the music. A violin filled the room. Clear, steady, unafraid. No footsteps in the hallway. No hand reaching to shut it off. No voice sending me away. I closed my eyes and listened. Then, without hurry, I raised the volume by one small notch. Exactly as loud as I wanted. Not softer. Not louder. Enough. I said the word aloud. And in that moment, I understood how much it now contained. It meant I was adult enough to set conditions in my own home. Strong enough not to rescue people who were not asking for help, but for cards and square footage. Old enough to finally grasp a simple truth. Ownership is not only about keys and deeds. It is about choosing silence. Choosing the people at your table. Choosing the volume of the music. I turned off the television and listened to the house. It breathed evenly. Outside, the garden darkened. A branch shifted somewhere. Water clicked softly in a pipe. Nothing dramatic. Just a life I was no longer renting out. In the hallway, my beige blazer hung on its hook. I smoothed the lapel, one small detail, corrected before it could become a larger one. The keys rested on the nightstand. Warm metal. No other bundles beside them. Only mine. In tomorrow's notebook, it was written, Wednesday, 4 p.m. sharp. Wills and passwords. I closed the cover. Set the kettle for morning. Turn off the light. The house was mine. But more importantly, I was home again. And in my life, just like on that remote, the volume is finally controlled by me. I'm truly glad you were here with me, and that I could share this story with you. If it touched you, please show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments what city you're watching from and what time it is right now. I genuinely love seeing where all of you are listening from around the world. If you'd like to support this channel a little more, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories with you every single day.